Hello and welcome to the 8-man hard mode Thrasher boss fight guide. My name's Hayete, and today I'll be covering everything you need to know to successfully complete the third fight in the Scum and Villainy operation. For this encounter, we suggest you bring a standard composition of 2 tanks, 4 DPS, and 2 healers. Any class composition will be more than capable of beating this fight. So let's take a few moments to cover the DPS requirements for this fight. This encounter has an enrage time of 7 minutes. Here you'll find an analysis based on the 420-second time to kill. You'll find individual healths for each enemy encountered, followed by a multiplier denoting the amount you can possibly face within the 420-second kill time. To more closely model the actual minimum DPS required, 2 analyses were done covering both parts of this fight. As you can see, both DPS requirements are quite low when compared to current 4.0 class capabilities. With that said, these analyses do represent a bare minimum requirement, and do not take healer DPS into account. Your own DPS and your group's DPS should be and probably will be much higher than this. So before we move into strategy explanation, let me take a few moments to go over the mechanics for this fight, so you'll have a good idea of what things look like and what they do. Then we'll discuss how to put it all together. Number 1. Swipe. Swipe is a frontal cleave attack used by Thrasher. This does a high amount of damage. Number 2. Stomp. Stomp is a 360-degree raid-wide attack that propagates throughout the entire arena. This does a very small amount of damage. Number 3. Roar. Roar is a raid-wide AoE attack that only occurs when Thrasher's current target is beyond 10 meters. There is a distinct knock up and knock back that precedes Roar. Number 4. Demolitionist. This ad has only one notable attack, Rocket Launcher. This places a red circle telegraph at the feet of a random raid member. Shortly after, a missile is launched to the marked location. This ability does a high amount of damage. Number 5. Snipers. These ads make up the bulk of the ads you'll encounter. They rotate between aimed shot and thrown grenades, both of which do small amounts of damage individually, but can start to become a problem when concentrated on one player. Number 6. Firebug. When this ad spawns, it randomly selects a raid member and applies a blue circle telegraph to them. The Firebug ad will run immediately to the selected player, and once it has reached melee range, will place a 360-degree fire circle on the ground at the player's location. Any player standing in this will take a large amount of damage. Alright guys, so now that you have an idea of what's what, let's cover what you really want to know. How exactly to beat this fight. So before you start the encounter, there is a bit of pre-planning that you will need to accomplish, namely, splitting your group into 2. This is fairly simple, as you'll want to split your group into 2 teams of 4. 1 tank, 1 healer, and 2 DPS. Our suggestion when doing this is to consider the strength and role of your DPS. In Group 1, place your 2 highest DPS, and in Group 2 your lowest. Tanks and healers are not necessarily a concern, but if you have at least 1 Guardian or Juggernaut tank, we highly encourage you to keep them in Group 1. I'll explain exactly why this is a great idea here shortly. So additionally, we suggest, if at all possible, keeping your melee in Group 1 and ranged in Group 2. This may all sound a bit confusing, so let me explain why you're splitting your group. This encounter essentially has you fighting on 2 fronts at the same time. Group 1 will be on the ground engaging Thrasher, and Group 2 will be on top of the arena taking care of demolitionists and snipers. Once Group 2 is up top, they will remain there for the duration of the fight. This is why having ranged in Group 2 is a great idea. Ads in this encounter die fairly quickly, so there will be some inherent downtime. If ranged are up top, they can then shoot down on Thrasher and aid Group 1 in DPSing the boss. Melee will be very limited in what they can contribute to the boss if they're up top. So now that I've explained why you're building your groups the way that you are and what they'll be doing, let me explain the flow of the fight. So as you move to initiate the fight, we highly suggest having your tank pull the boss from this position. Have the rest of your group start off throughout here. You'll want to go ahead and use all raid buffs and adrenals as the fight starts, since it'll be the only time your entire group is available to DPS Thrasher. Approximately 18 seconds after the fight is initiated, 3 snipers and 1 demolitionist will spawn on the wall in one of 4 random locations. The following image shows the possible locations these adds can spawn in. This image will be linked in the description section below for your reference. 30 seconds into the fight, the pre-roar knock-up and knock-back will occur. This is how you'll get Group 2 on the wall up top. So there are 2 ways to respond to this, and get your group up on the wall to take care of the adds. The standard strategy is to have all Group 2 members stack at this location 25 seconds into the fight. You can easily recognize where this location is by the skeleton bones lying on the ground. Standing here will ensure all Group 2 members receive the knock-up and knock-back mechanic and will be thrown up and onto the wall. Once up top, Group 2 should then move to engage the adds. The second method is to move the boss to where the adds spawn, and get knocked up onto the wall from there. Each wall section has a set of skeleton bones and can be used as a good reference point as to where the group should stand to get knocked onto the wall. If you choose to utilize this method, ensure your tank responds immediately as the adds spawn and pulls the boss along the wall as not to turn the boss into the rest of the group. Also, be sure not to move too quickly, as moving beyond 10 meters from Thrasher will cause him to stop moving and start roar endlessly until his current target moves back inside of 10 meters. Regardless of which strategy you choose, you will have 60 seconds to defeat the adds from the time they spawn. After 60 seconds, they will auto-enrage and start one-shotting your entire raid team. For each set of adds, the tank in Group 2 should be sure to hold aggro on them as much as possible to keep the mechanics up top and off the ground floor. These adds spawn every 45 seconds after the initial set. For Group 1 on the ground, as Group 2 gets knocked up onto the wall, the Group 1 tank should immediately taunt and move their back up against the wall. This will keep the tank from being knocked up on top of the wall and will completely disable the roar mechanic. Group 1 while on the ground will need to be watching for the demolitionist's rocket launcher telegraph and move out of it as it happens. Additionally, the firebug mechanic will only target those players in Group 1 on the ground. The best way to respond to this is to have the selected player move off to a wall and allow the flame device to be planted there. Once the device is planted, the firebug add will leave the arena. Group 1 will simply repeat these mechanics, and Group 2 will kill all adds as they spawn. You'll rinse and repeat this until the boss is defeated. So let me give you some extra tips and tricks you can use on this fight. First, I mentioned earlier about keeping a Guardian or a Juggernaut tank on the floor in Group 1 if you had one available. So the reason this is a good idea is because Saber Reflect can be used inside of the Firebug flame circles to reflect some massive damage back on the Thrasher. In testing, this proved to be roughly 5% HP per device, without the extended Saber Reflect duration utility selected. Furthermore, if your Group 1 members are able to successfully overlap Firebug devices, then you can reflect multiple devices at one time for multiplicative damage. This can of course be done by Guardian and Juggernaut DPS players as well. Second, when targeted by the Firebug, you do not have to immediately move off of Thrasher. You only need to be in the location you desire to have the device prior to the add getting within 4 meters of you. Once the add reaches you and stops moving, you can immediately move away from the location. The device will still be planted, and this will keep you from taking the initial damage from the device activating. Lastly, the sniper adds maintain a buff that is essentially cover, keeping these adds from being leapt to by melee classes. Gunslingers and snipers, however, can use diversion on them to remove this buff and allow melee classes the ability to leap to them. This can be used for a variety of strategies, but is also a great way to help get a player that missed the knock-up mechanic up top with their group if they happen to be melee. So that's the fight, guys. This fight is really straightforward and pretty simple. It goes really quick once you get into it. So make sure that you guys, either up top or down on the floor, do whatever your specific jobs are, and as long as you stick to those mechanics, you'll have no issues. As always, if you like this video, please show your support and give it a like. We love to hear your feedback, and that's always a great way for us to get a good idea of how well these guides are being received by the SWTOR community. If you enjoyed the guide, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button so you'll be the first to know of new guides and content as we release them. If you have any suggestions, comments, or think of something I may have missed, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, enjoy the fight.
Alright, pulling in 3, 2, 1.
Here's your dinner, Thrash. Attack. You like this trick? Been working on it a while. That's my girl. Let him have it. Like this trick, been working on it a while. Droids, soldiers, bah. Give me a war beast any day. Isn't that right, Thrasher? Train them right and they'll do anything for you. Even kill.
You're back to a woman.
Gunfire.
Droids, soldiers, bah. Give me a war beast any day. Isn't that right, Thrasher? Train them right and they'll do anything for you. Even kill. You like this trick? Been working on it a while. Go for the eyes, Thrash. They taste the best. Droids, soldiers, bah. Give me a war beast any day. Isn't that right, Thrasher? Train them right and they'll do anything for you. Even kill. Thrasher, no! I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you.